Hello, beloveds. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be introducing my dear friend and sister, Lara. And I think we go back at least 15 years. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I remember walking with the babies in your belly at least 15 years
Yeah, and
ago.
St. Patrick's going on
Yeah.
11. So yeah, you're right. Lara is just magical, like just absolutely beautiful. And I'm just so excited to be having this conversation together. Like we spent a lot of time kind of in our yoga community, and then we just really created that sister goddess bond, and we just go for walks and just discuss like our growth and spirituality. And then here we are now, about a decade later, but
Yeah.
four children later
Amazing.
between the two of us.
I know, like toys in the background.
So it's just so beautiful to be here with you, love. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And the work that you do in the world is so important, and I've got to witness you post this last 20 years of all the deep study and journeys that you've done. And that's what really brings us here today, especially this pilgrimage that you did. So I'd like to first of all start, because what I think what's up right now is, I mean, you're so incredible with all your somatic work and the goddess work that you do, but is the ancestral piece. This is like really, really powerful work for all of us, for humanity. So I'd love to start, because I know you've done a lot of work around ancestry. So why don't you kind of introduce what that means to you and what your journey has been with that?
I would start with there was the experience of shame that I was very familiar with growing up. I wasn't able, like I couldn't articulate where it came from until I later when I went to receive my master's. I felt like the shame actually got worse when I received my master's in psychological counseling. It was very didactic and not as like what I needed was more of the spiritual body somatic oriented healing. And so later after my master's, I just delved more deeper into spiritual and somatic work. And one of the pieces that I didn't explore because it's so nuanced and there's so many layers is my identity as a Jew. Because I was white passing, there was a sense of I have privilege or I am able to move through life without being in danger or having something really bad happen. However, internally, I was always terrified of telling people I was Jewish. I was riddled with shame around that. And I think it was maybe 10 years after my master's degree where I started to get really curious about it. Why is this one area that I can't talk about or have conversations with, and I'm afraid to share with people? I thought about just my mother and where she came from. And she was born in a displaced persons camp in Austria. Her parents were the only survivors. And when I thought about anytime we saw anything about the Holocaust, my mother could barely stand up. She could barely stand up. She would faint. And my brother also almost died several times because of anti-Semitic comments and my brother retaliating. And so, he has knife marks, scars all over his body from being Jewish. And so I said to myself, this is an area where I am afraid, and anything in our lives where I feel, especially in my life, where I feel afraid, I want to move closer to it. I want to be intimate with the fear. I want to get to know it. I want to have it move through me so I can expand my capacity to hold it, so I can know myself and fear more intimately. So I asked my mother, hi, do you want to go to Poland and take like a pilgrimage and go to the concentration camps and see where we believe they were murdered and take this trip? And she actually said yes. So we originally were planning on going to Colombia for a fun trip. My mother and I used to travel occasionally together. And I pivoted and said, do you want to do this? And she said yes. And this was a conversation that she was never able to have. And at that point, I felt something release in me. I was moving towards that which scared me. And I was moving towards the ancestry, like the ancestral lineage of angst and pain and suffering and and imprisonment. And I knew that something was going to open up from here. We went to Auschwitz and we went to Majdanek. Those are 2 concentration camps. And I remember moving through, and I remember going through the crematoriums and the gas chambers. And I remember at this one point, there was like, it felt like incomprehensible. Like, how could this happen? And how could this happen to my people? And everyone, was murdered. We had, I don't know, my grandfather had like 3 brothers and sisters, and they had a niece and a nephew. And my grandmother had, her mother, because her brother disappeared. But there was a big family. And so to know that this was directly connected to my lineage felt so big. And I remember in this experience of being like, I can't hold this.
Yeah.
This feels too much. Like, the grief feels too much. And then expanding it to just humanity. How could this happen to people? How could people be capable of doing this to another human being? It felt like I like to understand things and then I make sense of life. I could not understand it. And I remember the moment that it just felt like I can't hold this. And I heard outside a bunch of like teenagers chanting in Hebrew.
Wow.
And I remember at that time, it was kind of like resourcing or pendulating. I remember holding death and intense grief and intense pain in my body, and holding the chanting and the celebration of life here. And I remember kind of pendulating, going back between the chant and the life and the celebration and the victory, and we're still alive. It was almost like the grief made me feel like I'm going to die. I can't hold this sensation. And then the chanting and the outside was like something expanded within the contraction. And that's that place of like, okay, I'm alive and we got through this and we can do this. And I just need to feel it and hold it, because my ancestors couldn't. My grandmother, my bubby, constantly sad, constantly critical. Her mother, constantly sad, constantly critical. It's like the lineage, because there were also the pogroms, right? There was so much anti-Semitism happening even prior to the Holocaust. So there was so much fear and shame of like, ooh, I'm a Jew, right? Don't talk about that. Keep that quiet. You're in a press group. People don't like you. And so the moment that I felt the life while holding the death, it expanded my capacity to be with all of it. And I walked out and I just watched, and the tears were like grief and joy. And something shifted in that moment where I felt like I can be with this. And that one of the things that I learned was like, I'm stronger than I think. And I saw my mom, and she wasn't falling on the floor like she did growing up. She fell at other times during the trip just from overwhelm, but in that moment in the gas chamber, that's where we were, she didn't. And then we walked out, and it was like, oh my God, here is life. Let's chant, let's sing, let's celebrate. We are still here.
And I just have to, like, first of all, I just want to honor you, because how courageous you are to have taken this journey and to do that for your family, to do that for your lineage, like past, present, and future, like your babies and your babies' babies, and in that moment, it's incredible to hear how your capacity just expanded. Like, it's like, I don't think I can do this. And then all of a sudden it's just that chant. And then there's that expansion. And I was just having this conversation this morning about really getting comfortable with being in grief, but we could be in celebration at the same time. And really getting comfortable with being in both and being okay with that. Like you are with these chants, and then at the same time, like what could have brought you into complete despair, so that's so incredible. Okay, so carry on, please.
Yeah, thank you for naming that, because I think that's what helps us hold the grief, is being with the beauty and the life, and then we have a stronger container to hold it. And then there was several moments. There was just going to like the mass graves, or we sort of walked where we think our ancestors walked. They were taken in groups and they were executed in this like field. So my mother and I, we did that walk. We walked through, we went to the field where we think they were executed, and we just stood there. And, thank God for the spiritual practices of just me having a foundation so I can go. So I I was just chanting. I was just chanting and praying and singing and feeling and being with that again, because I think I had that prior experience in the camp, like something in that like helped to expand my container even more. And then there was another pivotal moment where Hannah Senich, she was like a freedom fighter, and when she was discovered by the Nazis, she was executed, but she was so brave. I mean, she was probably like 20, and she faced her executors. She wanted them to kill her face, her looking at their face. And there was something about like standing for a cause and standing for a mission and being so brave because it means more than life, that felt so liberating. And her courage just felt like something beyond I can ever imagine, just to stand for that, and then being a woman, and then to face what she faced, and to die in standing for what she lived for.
Wow.
And I remember feeling her energy. She sang a song or wrote a poem before she passed, and it felt so profound for me. And fast forward, when I was naming my son, my husband thought of the name, and one of the first part of the name in Hebrew is God. And the first part of her poem was singing to God, like wanting, talking things in nature and wanting things in nature to just always be. So now when I hear his name, I think about her and her courage. And she's just one of the women, like we talk about ancestors. She's one of the ancestors. She's not directly my ancestor, but she, in terms of spirit ancestors, she for sure is someone, along with my grandmother, that I look to for strength, for courage, for whatever I need to go through whatever I'm going through in life.
I love that. And I think on some level, all ancestors are in some way connected back to the humanity of ancestors, so, and then just that connection that you have with her just makes that so much more as well. You feel, you felt that experience, and she gives you courage daily by the sounds of things, so it's beautiful.
Absolutely. I listen to the song, or I just think about her and what she stood for. And I was like, it was another reminder of I can do anything. I can do this, right? She can do this. The moment in the camps. Yeah. And I think just the one other, really painful experience for my grandmother was that when she was escaping, so her and my grandfather, they got on the train to go east when they heard the Nazis were coming. Nobody else would leave. They didn't want to. So their whole family ended up being murdered. When she was on the plane, she was pregnant. And something that was always like so painful for me was just connecting with what happened. She ended up losing the baby on the train. Yeah. So, that her grief just lived with her always, not being able to have enough milk. It was very, very cold on the train. But when my son was born, it was the son, right? So she always favored my brother, and it was a son. And when my son was born, there was something really, really, really special and really magical about him being a boy. Now, from an ancestral perspective, I did feel at times like my pregnancy was hard, and I did feel at times I needed to differentiate. And I think this happens sometimes with ancestors, where I needed to let her know he's okay. Yeah. So there was a lot like, he's okay and we're okay, and I've got this. Thank you so much for your care. But I needed to set a kind of a boundary, right? And so that's another thing of how can I be more free here by clearing this space so I could be more present with him. So there's a blessing that I have a son, and then also how can I be fully present with my son without letting like ancestral burdens or grief kind of come into the magic and beauty of what's happening now. So that's another piece of how the ancestors can influence, right, where we were, where I am, and what do I need to do to be more present, where it's not just working within myself, but also working in my lineage, of working with the fear, working with the grief, working with all the things that's in the ancestral field. Yeah.
So you've kind of shared with me, prior to this and also throughout the interview, just yes, the fear that you felt and a fear that it's like, this isn't mine. Like, where is this coming from? This is not from my physical experience. This is something before I was born, you know? You talked about, but also this shame, like this shame of even saying, this is who I am, this is my lineage, right? So can you speak more to that piece? Like, so you went through this whole journey, which was so brave of you, and like brought a different energy there and shifted that frequency, you know, and kind of were like, this is, I'm not going to take this any further, and this is gonna heal. Like, I'm gonna heal this lineage. So that chant that you heard when you were in the chambers, was this the chant that you've taken now as your sacred chant?
No, because actually, believe it or not, I followed more of the yogic lineage in Sanskrit. It was actually in Hebrew.
Yeah.
And my family spoke Yiddish. So it was like my mom didn't even understand. She spoke Yiddish. They were speaking Hebrew. I was thinking it was the feeling in my body, definitely. When I think of the moment, I could feel in my body that feeling of what it felt like. But I actually didn't understand what they were saying. But you can feel the energy up and singing, and that's what is sort of imprinted in my soma, my body. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what happened next? So like what happened? Like, how did you integrate this experience? How did you feel when you got back? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah. And I'll answer also, I think you had asked like the shame. How did I work through the shame, or how did I change? Okay. Well, the one thing that I did recognize is the fear was in me, but it also was it is the historical piece, because there are things that I have experienced in my brother still to this day around anti-Semitism. So I noticed that it comes up, but I have such pride versus shame that my capacity to hold it is different. So from that experience, it's funny, prior to going, I went to a Jewish mysticism class where I ended up meeting my husband. So I was,
I love that.
yeah. So I was like getting ready for my trip. And during the class, they said, were you born a Jew, or have you really claimed yourself to be Jewish? And we did a meditation. I stood up. I said, I have not claimed. There's so much shame in my lineage. There's so much angst. There's so much victimization. There's so much hurt. I have not connected in a positive way with my Jewish identity. Anyway, ended up going to the trip, connecting with my husband, who had gone to his grandfather's house and who had done like another kind of pilgrimage, which how many people do you meet third generation that do that?
Wow.
But he had done it. So he had gave us our guide for our trip. And when I was there, it was interesting to work through all of these little pieces of the expanding of capacity, but also I think to connect with another person who's been where I was. His grandparents were also survivors in many concentration camps. So to connect with him and to be in this experience where we went to several camps, we went to the town where our family was from, we just walked through every part that they may have been, and being with that and being with my mom and grieving and praying for like Loka Samasta Sukunu Bhavantu. I think that was the chant that I did, like may all beings be free. I felt like I would see them like flying, and I had done a lot of shamanic journeying work prior to my trip. I had a jaguar as my spirit animal. So I would have my jaguar with me, and they would be like flying high in birds. And it was like, I don't know, there was something about freeing that I felt like, I'm okay. Like I'm okay. I'm more than okay. And then meeting my husband, you know, where we felt like together, we're going to do this. We're going to shift. We're going to shift this pattern, and we're going to liberate our people. And coming back and being with him after having that trip. And then we ended up, you know, we had gone to Israel and saw like some of the various places in Israel, like some museums, and then coming back. And then I conceived so easily in my 40s, so easily. And I honestly feel that I'm very connected to the feminine. So that definitely supported my womb and my fertility. But I honestly feel like the ancestors orchestrated
I have been
all of it.
thinking this the whole way. I'm like, the ancestors brought you guys together. And that's the thing. When you work with them and connect with them and support with the healing, I mean, then they can work with you, and
Yep.
in your work, but also in your life. Like, I mean, and I just have to say that is so beautiful. I can't imagine a more magical way to meet. I mean, incredible. Wow.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was very, very, very meaningful and magical. And we're very deliberate with our behaviors and our thoughts and our practices in the house to see, like, okay, is this coming from some of the angst, some of the fear, some of the grief, or is this coming from the present day moment? And we always play, like, there's a song that we play, or I'll play with my drum when we're going to do something that feels big, that has to do with either embarking on a new like path, or working with some kind of antisemitism we might be looking at, or understanding something that feels really big and hard to digest and assimilate. Like we'll ask and we'll say, okay, we hear them, here they are as a household, because we really don't want our kids to hold on to anything that has to do with the past. If it's from the present, like I said, we've experienced anti-Semitism or things, that's something we can hold, but I don't want it to be so much bigger than what it is, because it's like from the history, hysterical from the history versus the present.
Like with no trauma or anything from that. It's like, okay, what's here now we'll work through, but that's healed, and we don't need to take that on anymore and carry that with us and carry that burden. So yeah, amazing. So what are, like, if some of the beloveds that are listening to us now are thinking, wow, I can relate. Like I know what you're talking about. I know what that what fear is like, and I know what, a lot of things we're discussing. What are some tools that you would suggest when we're taking on, and maybe not everybody can go take a pilgrimage, or it's just, that's not available.
Yeah.
What are some other things that they're working from their home that they can do?
Absolutely. So something I did prior to the trip, like even before I knew I was going to take the trip, I would just light a candle and I would think about the qualities that my mother had and that my grandmother had that I wanted to embody and move forward, take with me. And I would say something like, I am the daughter of, Phyllis, and I honor these qualities within you. Thank you for this. Thank you for life. I'm the granddaughter of Hannah. These are the qualities that I want to take on and embody and move forward. But I would also do that for what I wanted to leave behind. So I would look at some of the qualities that I felt like wouldn't support my growth, being prosperous in the way that I want to and abundant. And then when I needed those qualities, then I would ask them for their help. And I always, this is like a picture, but I always have this everywhere. So it's my grandparents, my Bubby and Zadie, that escaped, and her courage,
Wow.
courage, and what she was the one that insisted they needed to leave.
Well, thank
and
you.
she left everything.
Wow.
Mm.
So brave. And thank you for sharing. What a beautiful practice. You can light your candle, you can evoke your ancestor by pulling their name, evoking them. And what absolute beautiful clarity of that. Like, I'm so grateful, I would like to receive this, but this, no, and that's just so clear, and it helps us get clear when we might see something arise within ourselves, like, oh, I actually not choosing that, and that is yours and it's not mine, right? So I don't have to.
Yeah. Yes. That differentiation.
Yeah.
I would say, and there was just two more things that I did do, meaning did back then, also do, still do now. Is one, with my matrilineal line, which I'm so passionate about healing. There was just a lot of criticism. The women were quite critical because they were afraid and there was shame, right? So it was like the energy was projecting out onto others versus really working through internally. And so whenever I experienced the opposite, like acceptance or just love, I would say, may you know this now. Like in that moment that I was feeling it, I would just pass it on to them. Like, may you know this feeling. May you also be free from the hurt and feel what it feels like to just love and accept in this moment. So it kind of is the intentional, here you go. And the last thing that I do or did is any songs that connect me to the ancestors. Yeah. So I could just read you just one, just it's a very short, like literally a minute.
Yeah, love that. I know everybody would love that.
I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. She says, stand in your power, women, stand in your power. Listen, 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 listen. I hear the voice of my grandmother calling me. I hear the voice of my grandmother's song. She says, stand in your power, women, stand in your power. Listen, 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 listen.
Mm. Oh, I just felt them all come in there. That was amazing.
Yeah, it's much longer, but I just I was a little like, oh, a little nervous. But usually what I do is I'll just like there's something about the drum that makes me feel really like alive and strong and powerful. And so usually I'm able to drop in as I keep on going. So I just, that was just a little taste of it. But so a song that connects me to my ancestors, and I sing it and I just hear it and I sing it and I hear it and I feel the connection. I feel tuned in. I feel the thread. That's the word I was looking for. I feel the thread.
Absolutely. Yeah. I could feel, I could see it. And when you started playing the drum, and it's the heartbeat. So it's connecting with all the heartbeats, and it's Mother Earth's heartbeat. And so, and the ancestors are such a part of the earth, the land, because we go back into the land. So,
Yeah.
So beautiful. So I love that, sitting with the candle and what I'd like to receive and I wouldn't. And then when you feel that like embodiment of love or peace or calm or whatever it may be, you can say, may you feel that. I love that. And then chanting. And everybody might have their own chant, whatever that chant is. But
Yeah.
something about the voice. The voice is, when I look to offerings, when I go to the wells and the mountains and I want to give an offering, to me it's always a song because it's the purest offering, before you wine and it's like, well, that's not really great for the ancient rocks and the milk.
Yeah.
But the voice is the purest, offering that we can give. So I love
And your
that.
voice is incredible.
Yeah. What's that, love?
And your voice is so, so incredible.
And so is yours, my love. And then I know dance is really big.
Oh,
But
yeah.
for you, but like just move, like you're an incredible dancer, but like let's even just talk about it's like moving our body. Even if we were like, oh, I'm not a good dancer, I don't think I'm a good singer. It's all vibration, it's all movement.
I love that you just brought that up. It's like there's so much information and there's so much. So connecting, I did this without consciously doing this, but for your audience, connecting with your ancestors, whether it's through food, through music, through dance, through customs, through culture. I did that because I do tribal fusion belly dance. So belly dance, right? My ancestors from the Middle East. And the drum that I play, they're all Middle Eastern rhythms. And I'm like, why do I love this so much? This was like a while ago, right? Many years ago. But I love it because it's connected to where I come from. And so the getting into my body and listening to like Middle Eastern music, or I also connect also from like another kind of ancestry, not by blood, but through like the Latin culture.
Yeah.
So, or I'll put on some like Latin music, like salsa, bachata, reggaeton. I'll put on that because I also feel really connected to that. So I'm connecting to the roots and then just moving through, like letting the music move through me and connecting to the earth, the sun, the moon, like all of life. And also consciously bringing in whoever I'm in, like a human lineage, whoever I'm wanting to like pull in or connect with or help to free, but through dance, through my body, letting my body be the vehicle for liberation for connection. So yes, I love that you just said that. And singing, I don't have a background in singing. I just sing because of the drum and because I love to chant. But it is, like you said, it's so helpful from a biological, physiological perspective in terms of like stimulating the vagus nerve, but also from a expression and freedom of like, I have my voice, I have something to say. May my words be healing balm for all beings, or for a specific person, for this person's heart and soul. So what am I dedicating this to, whether it's a dance or a song or a drum, or what's my intention? And yes, I love that you said that. Thank you for bringing that up.
And isn't it amazing when we know this, we do our inner work and things start to shift externally, right? But, the inner work is a lot of pieces to it. Sometimes it's inner child or, whatever maybe. But like that ancestral piece, when we just start to understand and we start to even just explore, wow, that's what happened in my lineage. Oh my gosh. And without even knowing that's what happened in my lineage, I have fears around that, or I have a remembrance around that, and that doesn't even make sense. But actually, even now, science is catching up with the mystics, and it's like epigenetics, right? Like it's scientifically proven now that we can take on these emotions and feelings and our ancestors. So I love all these practices that you have shared with us because they're all just so doable. We can just sit there and consciously choose to work with them in that way. I love that. Would you say, like when you came home from your trip and that your mom maybe experienced shifts, like was there still a lot to kind of work through after getting back, that you just kept using these tools and you noticed stuff still coming up?
That's a great question. Something shifted between my mom and I in that trip. And I think it was, I gained such a deeper respect for her because her capacity to be with challenging states and her capacity.
Yeah, I got chills on that one.
Yeah. Her capacity to be with grief, her capacity to move towards what she always moved away from my entire life. So it's like when I think about that red thread, that red line, part of it was the challenge for me. Like I wanted a model. I wanted I wanted something that they had that I wanted, and at that point it was like, of course I was able to identify other things in the years of being my mother, but this was a place where she always moved away and she was moving towards. And so I had so much respect for the way that she was handling it and just being with it. And she would write, that's how she would integrate. I would chant, that's how I integrated. And when we came back, we had this shared experience. We had this really shared, intense experience. So that really helped. My mother there's another layer that's coming up from her now, and it's pretty significant. So now she had gone to see somebody to do her work, and it's so beautiful that she's not saying, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
And there's another layer for me now that's coming up. Whenever, this has been actually from the beginning, but it's getting a little bit more now. When my babies cry, not all the time. I hear and have visuals of the stories that my grandfather told me of what they did to the babies that were Jewish.
Oh, wow.
And I not all the time, but there are times that I see the visuals and I go right there. So I set up sessions for myself because it's like, okay, I don't want my babies to feel my fear around their cry because it's actually not about their cry. They're okay. Yeah. It's that I'm holding these really strong images in my mind, auditory images, but images of auditory and visual. And I feel like it's another layer of working through this. So it's like here I revisit it again. What do I do to hold it? I'll sing, I'll chant, the drum, I'll dance. So I'll still use the same tools to work through it, but then I will schedule some kind of ancestral healing session for myself so someone else can hold me in this so I can work with it.
That. Yeah, I love that. And I completely agree. I think we all need support, just like we are supporting people, right? We're of service in our work. We need some support. And there's only so much that we can do ourselves as well,
Yeah.
and like I find for myself, even with things, it's like I've got my own blind spots. So it's like, oh, it's so obvious to you. Well, thank you.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and it's part of self-care, it's part of self-love. It's.
Exactly. There is actually one, I did leave one piece out. I don't, that could be maybe of support to your audience, but I had, done a lot of shamanic journeying prior to my trip, which was 5 years ago. And a lot of resources that I had mentioned, like one was the jaguar, but so I'm very visual. So a lot of times I will close my eyes and I'll rework the image.
Mm,
So I'll see something that's horrific and then I'll see my jaguar come up and just devour or scare or do whatever needs to happen. I'll just let the scene play out. So my system can settle a little bit and I feel more resourceful.
yeah, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. So having your power animal or the symbol, or some way of transcending that vision that you're getting,
Yeah.
because it's like we've got to support a new thought, a new vision for
Yeah.
us, for our families, and there's so much that you're sharing I can relate with, that I know our audience can relate with in their own experiences, because none of us are, we've all got trauma in our lineage. Like we've
Yeah.
all experienced trauma in our life, but it's just being willing to kind of hold it and feel it and let it process and be willing to face it and move through it.
Yeah.
You so beautifully have. And then I'd like that spiral and bits come up, just be willing to sit with it again. And because I think a lot of time we think, oh, I've healed that, like that's done now, this won't. And then it's like, oh, there's a piece of that back again. And it's like, yeah, but it wasn't like it was, like it used to be. I couldn't even talk about it, or I couldn't. And now it's like, okay, hi again. Like,
Yes.
let's see what's here,
Yes. And I find that my children, I don't know if you have this experience, bring up things, bring
Oh,
up a
yeah,
lot.
daily.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So like if I didn't have like there's something about my children get to be the mirror and I get to see truth through their eyes and I get to see the parts of myself that I may not want to see
Oh,
and
yeah.
get to work on so much. So they're, like they are just my spiritual teachers.
Oh,
And
I know. Who needs it?
right?
On your kids. Like stop reading my mind. Stop, just stop. Out of there, please. I feel like it's every day, and it's just boom, they'll come out, and it's just pure truth, and it's just pure.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
But there's like, and to me, like I know everybody has their own beliefs, but to me, and my daughter always, or my son say it to me, like, well, you chose us, we chose you, so let's all learn together, and like they'll just kind of these truth bombs that like then and when something's a yes within you, when it's wow, that's really true, and that gives me something else to work on and to be aware of and to hold space for,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, this is amazing. So I know you do all this incredible work in the world. To everybody listening, because I know you have your wonderful tools of dance and so on, but just even outside of all this ancestral work, but just day-to-day mothering and not sleeping well sometimes, and what are tools that you use as far as self-care and just keeping yourself in balance? And I think it's ultimately so we can be our best selves for ourselves and for them and partners and everything.
Yeah, I love that question. I would say, I mean, even this morning was an example. My son, he's 11 months old and he still wakes up at like 5. And it's just really hard to be nursing and to be waking up so early. So today he slept until 6. So when I can, I go outside and I do a practice during sunrise, just really welcoming the sun, feeling the earth, and doing a little meditation where I'm really feeling myself as like the bridge between the sun and the earth, and setting an intention for the day, like just may I surrender today, may I be of service today. And when I don't have the time for the meditation, I still walk outside to just greet the earth and the sun. Like it's a mini
I love that.
baby.
Yeah, we do that too.
Or yesterday I nursed with the baby, like on the grass, just it was like, I don't know, 5:55 in the morning, and just nursed the baby on the grass. I would say I use like crystals just because it's quick, it's easy. I'll just hold them and the altar, the singing, the dance, the massage, or some kind of body work, any kind of body work, not just massage, any kind of touch
Like,
work.
are you talking about self-massage?
Actually, no. But what I do want to say about that too is I do so because my body is always holding a lot of weight, holding the babies, doing things. I do use those, I forget what they're called, but those balls,
Yeah.
exercise balls. So I will like massage my feet with them, put them behind my back, like wherever it feels tense to kind of open up. And that's the other thing, doing like a little bit of asana of yoga. If I have just literally 2 minutes, I'll do it. I'll just say, hey, my daughter sees me, she copies me, like whatever.
I love that. And
Yeah.
how beautiful, because by you doing all of this, right, you're teaching her, oh, mommy takes care of herself. And like, because, it's like, what's that saying? Say what I do, not say what I
Oh,
do
yes,
what
I
I
know.
say, daughter. But no, because they're just, that doesn't matter what you say, it's what they witness you doing.
Yes.
So look at mom, she's massaging herself, she's taking care of herself, she's breathing, like, and then they'll go around and they'll be taking their breath, they'll be doing their yoga, so I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I love that you get to do it by yourself when that's possible, but then they just come along with you when needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever time I have or whenever I can like make the time, I try to make the time. I just do some kind of self-care, some kind of listening to some uplifting, audiobook that's focused on spirituality or some kind of growth enhancing experience through the words and just nature. Just I know that you can understand that. So just nature.
Yes.
Following the moon, following my cycles. Where am I? How can I support myself? What do I need to nourish myself? But always do full moon and new moon rituals, like whatever I can do to really honor the seasons, the cycles, and see myself as a reflection or as connected to the cycles of the earth as being a cyclical woman. So there's sacredness in that too. So
beautiful. And out of the about 20 years that I've known and loved you, you've always embodied these practices. Like, if there's nothing new here, like, I think we've always shared those experiences together, and then they just keep feeding us, and it's so beautiful. It's that cyclical flow, isn't it?
it's so beautiful and nourishing, and it's like the field of support that's available. And motherhood, as you know, is just it's really intense, but it's also really profound. We need to be held by the mother as we mother.
Absolutely. Oh, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and sharing your story with us, your ancestors with us. I mean, as I said, you're so courageous, because that was a really, really huge pilgrimage, and thank you for doing that, like, for humanity, so.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being interested in my experience and for doing the work that you do and for offering this to your audience. And I think it's a true gift to come and live from the heart as you do and invite people in to share their stories.
Oh, thank you, my love. So actually, Lara and I would love to hear from any of you that have had similar experiences, that are able to really relate to, or if there was just nuggets or of Lara's wisdom that she shared today that you can, share your experience, or you took some from. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you for listening as Lara shared her story, and thank you, Lara, for everything. Amazing.
Thank you so much, Amanda.